is the most interactive sports talk show anywhere. It's Offsides, Mark, Ryan, and Diesel, and we are the fan upstate. Did you hear, like, my voice went into a little twang there? What's good, my friends? Like I was channeling my inner Brian Kelly family.
You did that yesterday, too, on the tail end of the J.J. Hardy interview.
What did I do?
You went, J.J. Hardy.
Having a party with J.J. Hardy. Great to be with you guys today, man. What is good? How are you guys doing? And I'll tell you what, we are jam-packed for a Friday edition of the show. Thrilled to have you guys with us. Here's how you can take part. You can give us a ring at 844-FAN-PHONE on the Renewal by Anderson fan phone. It's 844-326-3663. And you can hit us on the text line at 71307. Just start your text with the word fan, and away you go on the show. Coming up on the show today, my friends, as we said, a very, very good one. Listen, why Dabo received some vocal support the other day, you won't believe where Dabo received some very vocal support yesterday. We will tackle that on the show. We're going to ask you at 3:40, Diesel, you included, to fix college football in 4 words, okay? 4 words to fix college football. What are your 4 words to fix what ails it? You know, I love doing that because Twitter sometimes frustrates you guys. Twitter gives you 280 characters, and if you got a lot to say, you can't be pithy there. You like it's very hard to fit a lot. So I'm gonna make this extreme. You got 4 words to fix college football.
More cheerleaders, more trustworthy.
I know where your head is on a Friday, Diesel. Diesel, by the way, says that any pretty woman, he never thinks they tell a lie.
I tend to believe them more.
He tends to believe them more if they're hot, okay? That's what Diesel says. So whenever a woman is hot, she says she's very trustworthy. I believe, ladies and gentlemen, with 90% certainty that you can tell if a woman is hot by her voice. You can tell. Like I'm 90% certain that you can. Now, every once in a while, Diesel, there is and I learned this in my single days.
Yeah.
Every once in a while, there is a girl with a raspy voice that is very good looking. And just by listening to the voice, you won't know it. And the voice is raspy. But for the most part, I think you can hear attractiveness.
If only there was a way to test this.
Yeah. For example, you guys listening right now can tell how very unattractive both Diesel and I are. You are subject to our voices on a daily basis. Okay. You have to deal with our voices on a daily basis. So we are proof that you can tell whether someone is attractive or unattractive. I think with 90% confidence, you're able to tell. What's up, YouTube? How you doing today? Good to see you. Good to see you guys all out there on YouTube this afternoon. Also, the Fan Upstate on YouTube is where we are rocking out today as well. We've got Brent Beer joining us on the show, Heisman Trophy voter. Everyone focuses on the negative these days. We're going to focus on the positive traits of area coaches. We've got the top 5 at 5. We've got either or, and we have you here on the most interactive sports radio show anywhere. But my friends, I would like very, very much to open with this. We are in the throes of something awesome that is going on. Something really, really, really cool. And that is history. Do you know that it has been 26 years since Clemson and South Carolina have made it to March Madness on the same season? 26 ever-loving years, okay? And today, via my reading of ESPN.com's Bubble Watch, both are locks. What did I tell you when Clemson beat North Carolina? What did I tell you? I told you Clemson was a lock. No ifs, ands, or buts. I told you that was signed, sealed, and delivered. You win at North Carolina, this team is too good to choke away a tournament berth. Mark Ryan, premature smaculation is what you're guilty of. No, I'm telling you they're going to be in the tournament, and now you know they are. There are exactly 3 locks in the ACC, and you're going to love being in this company, Clemson fans. Are you ready? The locks in the ACC are Duke, North Carolina, and Clemson. Tell me you don't like being on that line. I know you enjoy being on that line, right? You should, because you're there and because you've earned it. South Carolina is also on a very, very high line. As of the most recent bracketology, we've got Clemson as a 5 seed, South Carolina as a 6 seed, and the Florida Gators as a 6 seed. And I'm here to tell you, South Carolina is underseeded as a 6. They are underseeded right now as a 6. Well, lo and behold, we now have a brand new today bracketology from Joe Lunardi. Clemson is still a 5 seed in the bracket. South Carolina is still a 6 in the bracket. Even with the loss to Tennessee, no harm, no foul. Florida is a 6 seed as well. And Diesel, let me tell you this. If Florida has this matchup in the first round, I'm coming after somebody. They've got South Florida, okay? Are you familiar with what South Florida's doing, Diesel, right now? South Florida is ranked. They are among the mid-majors, one of the 3 or 4 best, okay? And you're going to love this, Diesel. And by love it, I mean hate it with every fiber of your being. They're saying, Diesel, if they don't win their tournaments, they're not in. They're in the top 25, Diesel.
Dear God.
They're in the top 25, and they've got them listed in the bracket as automatic qualifying.
And people say it's absurd when I say we need to revamp this thing and stop giving out so many dang at-larges to these major conferences. I understand that you're going after the ratings and you want people to watch, and you think maybe bigger fan bases will show up more to these locations. But like it's so undemocratic, right? Capital D. Undemocratic. I don't understand people saying, well, yeah, it's great. Let's get a barely over 500 Big 12 team in because maybe they'll bring 10 more fans than an elite mid-major.
Diesel, South Florida started their season 7-5. Okay. They're 16-0 since. 16-0. They are ranked. Anybody who's ranked.
That's called a winning streak.
Right. Anybody who's ranked should be a 6 seed or better. Right? Because there's 4 of each seed. So, like, if you're ranked 24th, which South Florida is, that's a 6 seed. That's what Florida is. USF is ranked higher than Florida in the AP poll and the coaches poll. They're ranked higher than Florida in both. And they got Florida playing this team in the 6 versus 11 matchup. I mean, this is, guys, we are not even hiding corruption anymore. We're not even hiding it. We have had so many politicians just get up in front of a microphone and lie, that you no longer need to tell the truth anymore because no one holds you accountable for lying.
Truth is, no one really cares if you're lying in politics anymore. No one cares as long as you say something they like.
They've made up their mind on who they're voting for. They already know it doesn't matter if you tell the truth or if you lie. But folks, none of those points are my topic for the opening statement, for the opening segment here. Okay. With these 2 teams, Clemson and South Carolina, set to make the tournament as locks, meaning they're in, meaning if they lose their next and last conference championship conference game, Clemson at Wake Forest this weekend, South Carolina at Mississippi State this weekend, okay? If they lose both of those games, okay, and they lose in the first round of their conference tournaments, they're still in. They've done enough to be in already. All right? They've done enough to be in. What I want to know is this. Could this season, in fact, be the best season in Palmetto State history? Could it be the best season ever? Okay? Palmetto State history. When was the best season ever in Palmetto State history? Well, quite honestly, folks, there haven't been many good ones. Essentially, every single Duke and North Carolina season, if you look at both schools, every single one is better than the best season that Clemson and South Carolina have ever had concurrently. But check this out. And I want to ask you guys this question. Okay, I want to ask you guys the question, could this be the best season ever? Let's establish what needs to be accomplished first. In 1996 and 1997, that season, 96-97, this is 2023-2024 season, right? Clemson made it to the Sweet 16, something they've done 3 times, and they have 1 Elite 8 berth, okay? But in 1996, 1997, Clemson made the Sweet 16. South Carolina won the SEC. They made the tournament, and shockingly, they lost in the first round of the tournament, but they won the Southeastern Conference. So you won a major conference in 1996, 1997, and Clemson made the Sweet 16. And if you go side by side, as I did today, I opened up the handy-dandy Wikipedia, and I said, okay, when did Clemson have a good year? Did South Carolina have a good year that year? No, they did not. When did the Gamecocks have a good year? Did Clemson have a good year that same year? No, they did not. You looked at every single year in the history of these two programs, okay, since in the tournament era, and what you find is that they, my friends, have had very few good seasons concurrently. That is the best. Sweet 16 for Clemson, winning the SEC for South Carolina. So, my friends, how do you beat that? I know how you tie it. South Carolina had the chance to win the SEC this week, fell just short. They're going to have a chance to win the SEC tournament, okay? But with or without a win there, Diesel, let me ask you this. If both made the Sweet 16, does that beat a Sweet 16 in an SEC championship?
Sure, it does.
I think that's close.
No, I think it absolutely does. I mean, you know, how much press do you get for getting into the Sweet 16? You get a ton. How much more momentum do you build going into next season? A ton. So, you know, it ties the Clemson's best season. And making that deep run, sure, for South Carolina, makes it the best season overall. Now, if we get a third Palmetto team in, which is a long shot, but it's still possible, and those two things still happen, I think it's easy to say that.
Well, what do we think, guys? What do we think? What would it take for you to consider this Palmetto State season the very, very best of all time? Diesel says 2 Sweet 16s would get her done. A South Carolina tournament championship, a Clemson Sweet 16 would get her done as well. Sticking with the Southern twang today. And, you know, like, what would the odds be, in your opinion, that this season could equal or supersede the best season we've ever seen in this state? I got to be real with you. This season, 1996, 1997, is better than I thought our best season was. I didn't think we had anything good in the same season, anything as good as a Sweet 16 berth and a conference championship. I never thought that happened in the same year. It did happen in the same year, 1996, 1997. But now you're looking at Clemson as a 5 seed. You're looking at South Carolina as a very, very strong seed here. And you're saying to yourself, well, could this be the time? Could this be the place? South Carolina is a 6 seed. Oh, they're trying to screw South Carolina, Diesel. They got them in the second round playing Kansas, okay? In the second round. Good luck. Clemson would play Kentucky in the second round in the current bracketology. That's a very winnable game for Clemson. I think Kentucky has double-digit losses this year. They now have Tennessee as a 1 seed. There's some respect for South Carolina, right? Tennessee moved from a 2 to a 1 by way of winning at South Carolina this week. 1 seeds are Houston, Purdue, Tennessee, and UConn. 2 seeds, Iowa State, North Carolina, Duke, and Arizona. I don't know. I'd say the first year post-Coach K has gone fine. Wouldn't you? I know slow erosion happens over time. Recruits start subtly not going to your school. But I think Duke's been maintained pretty nicely this year.
Hey, the culture has been maintained. John Shire's still bitching and moaning and crying about everything. So some things never change at Duke.
Diesel, I'll tell you this. If Florida got this bracket, I'd be, outside of being pissed at playing South Florida in the first game, if you win that game, The 3 seed is Creighton. I'm not scared of Creighton. Then the 2 seed is Duke. I saw Clemson almost beat Duke, right? At Duke, they almost beat Duke.
But if you lose that game, you take an L to an in-state.
Well,
foe.
and Florida's been losing way too many games to in-state group of fives, mid-majors lately.
And, hey, something to say to the equipment department down there at USF. I'm telling you, the green on highlighter green jerseys, not working for you.
No, it's not.
Like it works for Oregon. It's not working for you, USF.
Guys, what would make you say this is the best ever season for Clemson and South Carolina basketball? And what chances do you think we have of seeing that history this season? Do you know that your teams will be playing in conference tournaments 1 week from today? Do you realize that 2 weeks from today, your team might have already played in a March Madness game? What did I do? May
have done it.
Hello, my family. I don't know what's getting into me. True story. Diesel, I had a roommate in college that I was 20 and he was 28, and he moved into our apartment and he was from Turkey. And I kid you not, man, I started talking like this guy, and it wasn't intentional.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just my dialect just started being taken over with Turkish undertones. And my friend said, "Would you stop doing that?" And I said, "I don't know how to help that. I don't know. I don't know."
Can you give us an example?
Hey guys, how are you? What's going on, guys? It was kind of like that.
It's very Borat.
I started to pick up high five. I started to pick up the Turkish dialect, and I couldn't lose it. Couldn't lose it.
Only he brought some of his Turkish delights to the dorm room.
All right, guys, that is the question for you. What's it going to take? Let us know. 844-326-3663 on the Renewal by Anderson fan phone. And we'll get your thoughts next here on the most interactive sports talk show anywhere. It's Offsides, Mark, Ryan, and Diesel, and we are the Fan Upstate. It's Offsides, Mark, Ryan, and Diesel. We are the Fan Upstate, rolling on until 7:00 p.m. today. Clemson this weekend. Very similar opponents for Clemson and South Carolina this weekend, and very difficult games in the sense that both are playing teams on the bubble, fighting for their bubble lives. Clemson is at Wake Forest. Wake Forest is among the next 4 out. South Carolina is at Mississippi State. Mississippi State is among the last 4 byes. So, if you're South Carolina, you beat Mississippi State. Maybe Mississippi State ultimately doesn't get in. If you are Clemson and you beat Wake Forest at Wake Forest, maybe Wake Forest ultimately doesn't get in. For seeding purposes, you don't want to lose these games if you're Clemson or South Carolina. How are you going to justify that you're a 5 seed losing to a bubble team? At the same time, man, you're in their building. You're in their place. They've got survival on their mind. And that is going to be a very, very difficult out for each. I'm going to tell you what right now, I don't think both Clemson and South Carolina win this weekend. I think at least one of the 2 loses. Not willing to say who, I don't know who. Okay, but I don't think this is a situation where, with what's on the line here, both of these teams are going to win. I just, personally speaking, do not see that happening. 844-326-3663 is the number on the Renewal by Anderson fan phone. The number for you guys, the question for you guys is, South Carolina a 6 seed, Clemson a 5 seed. Could this be the best ever season in Palmetto State basketball history? I'll answer, yeah, it could. It very well could. Diesel says 2 Sweet 16s would achieve it. I'll agree with that. 2 Sweet 16s would be the best basketball season ever potentially in this state. All right. What about if you have a round of 32 and an Elite 8? Would that be the best season ever? I am worried about Clemson's consistency. Okay. For me, I think they have the seedings off by 1. I think Clemson should be the 6 and South Carolina should be the 5. I think the conference record speaks for itself. I think the SEC has been a better league than the ACC this year. All of that is true, accurate, right? And so I look at this and I say to myself, well, okay, South Carolina continues to get disrespected. They play really good defense. Defense travels. We know about South Carolina that they don't really have the talent to compete with the one-line teams, with the Houstons and the Purdues and the Tennessees and the UConns, but they could beat a 2. If Clemson can beat UNC, so can South Carolina. I wouldn't say South Carolina's incapable of beating Duke, but maybe just not the ones. What do you guys say? What would it take for this to be the all-time best season in South Carolina State basketball history? And do you think there's a shot it happens?
Oh, come on, Spur Daddy. Spur Daddy says if they win the SEC, they'll be a 2 or 3 seed. Jumping 3 spots. 3 spots, Spur Daddy? Come on now.
Texter says, Mark, the twang came out because you talked NASCAR yesterday. Let's do a Yankee accent today. I wouldn't know what that's like, even though Diesel says I'm from there. Let's see here. Texter says, a successful combo season for Clemson, South Carolina in the tournament would be one gets to the Sweet 16 and one gets all the way to the Elite 8. Betting on Clemson. So says Dave Tyner. Betting on Clemson. Dave, that's a good bet. Successful combo season, Elite 8 and Sweet 16. Would that be the most successful of all time? As Diesel said, Spur Daddy says Clemson makes the Sweet 16. South Carolina makes the Elite 8. Texter says Clemson is higher because of their non-conference. It is tops in the country. So says Jeff. Jeff, I understand the resume argument. Who do you think is better? Clemson beat South Carolina, right? Who do you think is better right now? Neutral court, who would you take, Clemson or South Carolina right now? Right now. You got to go by resume. I get it. I think, South Carolina being in the top 25, Clemson not. What are we doing with the rankings then? Why even have the rankings if they don't mean anything, if they don't matter? You got a top 25 USF team that is being told you have to win your conference tournament in order to be in. They've won 16 bloody games in a row, 16 bloody games consecutively. They've won. And you're telling them, hey, you know what, man? You play in a small league. That's not going to be good enough. Isn't USF is in the American, Diesel? That's not a tiny league. Florida Atlantic is in that league. They're really good. Charlotte is in that league. They're good.
Yeah, I think they're placing way too much emphasis on the quad 1 and 2 games. So let me look up USF.
By the way, Memphis is in the American. Memphis and Temple are in the American. Now, Temple isn't any good right now, but you got programs in there with storied basketball history.
They only have one. USF only has one quad 1 win, and that was a win on the road at Memphis, 74-73. A lot of quad 2 games. Looking at this resume here, they are 5-3 in quad 2 games. Quad 3, 8-0. Quad 4, 9-2. So, I mean, they're really looking for quad 1 wins. But the problem is, if you're not in a power league, you're not going to play very many quad 1 games. I mean, they just have a better resume because it's stacked for them to have a better resume in power leagues. And it seems like that's really what they're focusing on to try to get as many in a 5-3 or a 4-4 record in quad 1 games, or even a 4-5, 4-6 record to them is better than 2-0 in quad one because, well, you had more chances.
We continue on the text line. Texter says Clemson is 10-1 when Jack Clark starts. They beat USC without him. Texter says, guys, the ones aren't all that dominant year to year, but specifically not shaping up to be that way this year. Come on now. Florida would give any ones all they can handle, and they're shaping up to be a 7 seed. Well, right now they're a 6, Texter, and Florida has a ton of talent. Florida is the 6 or 7 seed that you don't want to play. South Carolina has shown itself to be a blue-collar team, fundamentally sound, doesn't beat itself, but doesn't have top line talent. You know, like I saw a lot of the Florida-South Carolina game. And you know what I thought to myself? Florida's the better team. South Carolina has the better system. Florida has better talent than South Carolina. But South Carolina overcame a double-digit lead in the second half to win. It's great. It's awesome. You know, that's what well-coached teams do, brother. It's what they do. Texter says the fascinating part is we've seen South Carolina and Clemson beat the top dogs this season. South Carolina with wins over Kentucky and Tennessee. Clemson with wins over North Carolina and Alabama. Both so capable of knocking off a 1 or 2 seed. I don't think South Carolina is capable of knocking off a 1, Texter. I don't. I'm sorry. I think they're capable of knocking off 2s, but I don't think they have the requisite talent to beat a Houston. Sorry, I just don't. Texter says it's ridiculous how low South Carolina is compared to teams they have a better resume against. Quad 1 and Quad 2. It's wild. South Carolina fans, I'm sure, are typing feverishly right now. Mark, you do realize South Carolina beat Tennessee this year, right? Yeah, Tennessee's a 1 now. They're a 1 now. What just happened in that game? Credit to South Carolina for making it tight.
South Carolina's 4-4 in Quad 1 games, 6-0 in Quad 2. That is an elite resume right there.
It is. It is. Diesel, I'm just glad I'm not having you tell me that South Carolina sucks anymore. You know, I'm just glad that that's no longer happening.
I never said that they sucked. I just said that the net doesn't like them.
That doesn't like them at all. At all. Do you guys realize that I'm going to give you a list of the teams that have an 800 winning percentage or better in college basketball? Okay, you ready? 800 winning percentage or better. Here we go. Vermont Catamounts. South Florida Bulls. North Carolina Tar Heels, Duke Blue Devils. Houston Cougars, Iowa State Cyclones. UConn Huskies. Purdue Boilermakers. Bear with me for just a minute. Princeton Tigers. Indiana State Sycamores, Drake Bulldogs. Utah State Aggies, Nevada Wolfpack. Arizona Wildcats. Tennessee Volunteers. Sanford Bulldogs. McNeese Cowboys. Appalachian State Mountaineers. James Madison Dukes. Gonzaga Bulldogs. Grand Canyon Lopes. And the South Carolina Gamecocks. How many teams did I name? 13? 14? You are one of 13 or 14 teams in the whole sport. You're among the best out of 329. You are among the best 13 to 14 records in all the sports, in the entirety of the sport, and you play in the conference that many are saying is the best in college basketball. Going to have a chance to talk to Jerry Palm tomorrow on the CBS Sports Radio show, 12 to 5 p.m., and I'm going to ask him that very question, best conference in college basketball. You're a Gamecock fan. How do you feel about being tied for second place in the best conference in all of college basketball in year 2 of your new head coach's tenure, who, by the way, took over an unmitigated dumpster fire, and had to deal with all the G.G. Jackson show BS a year ago?
You know, I would give anything to be able to talk directly to any of the people who put together the net, the people who built the formula, the people who manage and tweak the formula. And we need answers. I mean, it's the same process we go through every year with the college football playoff committee. They think it's a great idea. I mean, those who put it in place, they think it's a great idea because it creates the subjectivity that we all talk about. If the numbers say something, well, then that just kind of shuts down the conversation, right? Well, the computers say, the models say, boom. Why can't we know the formula of the net? Why can't we ask questions of the people who put this net together? It's like the Mike Florio audio we had yesterday. They know not to ask questions. They know not to follow up on these bogus trade and contract deals, because if you ask questions, you get shut out. You get taken off the emails. You get taken off the text chain. Why can't we ask the people who run the net why this is happening?
Yeah, and why are we so beholden to a computer system? Why, seriously, why? Well, what are we doing here? Their net ranking wasn't good. Did you watch them play? USF in a conference with Memphis, okay, reeled off 16 straight victories, and you're telling me, no, they're going to have to win their conference tournament to get in. They're in the top 25. Out of 329 teams, they're among the 25 best, and you're about to say you're not among the 68 best, but they're among the top 25.
And the saddest part is the fallback tournament, the NIT, is now taking away the regular season qualifier. You win your regular season, you're automatically in the NIT. You may still get in anyway just based on merit. But I think the NIT is unfortunately going to do the exact same thing that the field of 68 is doing. They're going to turn it into a popularity contest and only let in the teams that they have to.
Yeah. Any of these teams who have work to do that might not get in, the NIT would salivate over Virginia. If Virginia doesn't make the tournament this year. Look, guys, there's going to be a lot of really interesting stuff coming down the wire here in terms of where we are and the bubble watch and everything like that. This stuff, I'm telling you, it's going to be. You're about to take part in one of the most fun and exciting runs that we've seen, and quite honestly, it's the first time I've ever gotten to be a part of this. It's the first time I've ever had a chance to be a part of a fun basketball season here in the Upstate. I've had to root for my Gators. I've had to, Furman has been an outstanding story. But the two big guys here in the area, they've been largely MIA, largely missing from content. So what do you guys think? Does this season have a chance to be the best all time for the Palmetto State? What do you say? 844-326-3663. On the Renewal by Anderson fan phone, we got Rich in Chicago joining us here on the show. Hey, Rich, what's good, man?
Hey, man, I want to give you my picks.
Okay.
And I want to tell what Vegas thinks, because I like betting it early, because you don't know what the conference tournaments or the rest of the season are gonna do. But if you like certain teams, you can get huge edges if you wager. I don't think South Carolina, is it legal to place bets in South Carolina?
You can place bets off-site, but not bets within South Carolina.
I didn't think so. So you can't bet on South Carolina and Clemson because they reside in your state, right?
Well, you could, but it would have to be an off-site betting service.
Or you have to drive over the state line into North Carolina to place bets.
By the way, we asked our audience the other day, Rich, if they could only legalize one, would they legalize betting or weed in this state? What won, Diesel? Do you remember?
It was pretty close. We had some really excited people for both.
Yeah, very excited people. Too excited. So what do you got, Rich?
Well, let me tell you what Vegas has. And this is before the tournaments, before the end of the season, which is indicative to me. These guys do it for a living, all right? I'm going to give you some odds, and the people in South Carolina aren't going to be happy. Clemson's 100-1. Now, this is to win it all. But you can back it down, see how far they advance. But if you're 100-1 to win it all, that's not good. South Carolina is 80-1. So their odds are shorter, which means they believe that South Carolina has a bigger chance to advance than Clemson. Here's something for our Gators. They're 70-1. They're better than both South Carolina teams. 70-1. You can bet $10 and win 700. That's not a bad play. But let me give you some teams that are kind of obscure that if you're really smart, you get all over them now, because the odds are indicative. South Florida is 250-1. Can you believe that?
No.
250.
No.
That sounds crazy, right? Florida Atlantic is 100-1. Same as Clemson. So I'm not sure. Now, these guys are really smart, and they know, they look at matchups against, D1 teams and teams that are in the top 25. But the Gators at 71 are a great play. Here's what I would do, and maybe your listeners want to do this. If you bet 5 teams that are value plays, all you need is one to come in. And let me tell you what I think is going to win it all, which will create some stir. Tennessee is 10-1. Now they're not the favorite. They're like the number 3 guy. I like them to win it all. Utah State's 100-1. Iowa State's 20-1, and Baylor's 30-1. Now, all of these guys have a chance to win it all. Now, what I would do if you're really smart, you bet 2 or 3 long shots for a minor number, and you bet 4 of them, and if one come in, the ship comes in, and then I think Tennessee is going to win it all. But I'm a little confused as why they have Clemson at 100-1 and South Carolina at 81. They got the Gators. They got to go to South Carolina.
Well, because the Gators have more talent than South Carolina.
They do, but it's all based on records and the way they see these guys. I love it because I think the seeds are screwed up. If you let Vegas seed them, it would be far different.
You got it. Hey, Rich, great to hear from you, buddy. Thank you so much for the call, for ringing us up, for how you feel about all of the above. We truly do appreciate that, my friend. All right, guys, off and running on a Friday edition of the show today. Most certainly we are. Up next on the show, this is crazy to me, man. This is absolutely bonkers to me because the reality, guys, is this: you won't believe who came to Dabo's defense without knowing it. That's next. My name is Mark Ryan. He's Diesel, and we are the Fan Upstate. It's Offsides. Mark Ryan and Diesel. We are the Fan Upstate, rolling on until 7 o'clock p.m. today. Thrilled to have you guys with us. So this was surprising to me. And, of all the criticism that Dabo has taken, this to me is the biggest feather in his cap. Nick Saban came out, and everyone's wondering, okay, like a year ago, we'd have Brent Beard on. Brent Beard, Heisman Trophy voter, joins us in the next segment, and Brent said Nick Saban's nowhere close to retiring. Then out of the blue, Saban retires. Why did St. Nick retire? Well, everyone was surmising, and Nick didn't want to get into it. He just wanted to thank everybody and stay above the fray. But now that months have gone by, more is coming out about why he retired, okay? This week, Nick Saban came out and said the following. I want to be clear that while one thing wasn't the reason, some of those events certainly contributed. Saban said of his decision to retire. I was really disappointed in the way that the players acted after the game. You got to win with class. You got to lose with class. We had our opportunities to win the game, and we didn't do it. And then showing your ass and being frustrated and throwing helmets and doing that stuff. That's not who we are and what we've promoted in our program. Once back in Tuscaloosa, as Saban began meeting with players, it became even more apparent to him that his message wasn't resonating like it once did. Quote, I thought we could have a hell of a team next year, and then maybe 70 or 80% of the players you talk to, all they want to know is 2 things. 70 to 80% of the players. So a team in college football has 100 guys on it. 70 to 80% of the players you talk to, all they want to know is 2 things. What assurances do I have that I'm going to play because they're thinking about transferring? And how much are you going to pay me? Saban recounted. Our program here was always built on how much value can we create for your future and your personal development, academic success and graduating and developing an NFL career on the field. So I'm saying to myself, maybe this doesn't work anymore, that the goals and aspirations are just different, and that it's all about how much money I can make as a college player. I'm not saying that's bad. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying that's never been what we were all about, and it's not why we had success through the years. You know, the new generation would listen to what Nick Saban said, and they would say, okay, boomer. Okay, boomer. There are people in the media that would say there's nothing wrong with what the kids are doing. And they would say to Saban, okay, boomer. Okay, boomer. But you know what? Nick Saban is 100% right. All of you people who have been saying stuff like it's about time the players got their fair share, you don't understand that only 30 programs profit. 100 lose money. Okay, how do you want them to be paid? Exactly. You don't understand what it's like to build a team when 70 to 80% of your roster has one foot out the door all the time. You know, these coaches spend 2 and 3 years recruiting these kids. But Mark Ryan, what about the coaches who leave overnight? There's no excuses for them either. None. You know, like that's, you know, like two wrongs don't make a right, guys. Like you guys can't hit me with, hey man, coaches do it, so players should be able to do it too. Coaches should never leave before the season has concluded. Coaches should never leave at the start of spring football. Okay? That should never happen.
Looking at you, Sean Elliott.
Yeah, Sean Elliott should have never been available to Shane Beamer. You know, there's a window to negotiate, and then the window is closed. And why that isn't already in writing, the window for coaches to move, makes no sense to me. But Nick Saban is telling you the problem, okay? How much am I going to play? What assurances I have that I'm going to play because I'm thinking about transferring? And how much are you going to pay me? First two questions, all they want to know is those two things, all right? Nick Saban just offered Dabo Swinney the biggest possible defense ever, okay? The biggest possible defense ever, because Dabo Swinney is the guy who has taken it on the chin about towing a hard line on a lot of this stuff.
Yeah, but it's easy and it's all good to say those things after you've already left. Like, I think it rings hollow, the fact that Nick Saban said these things after he left. He's already said, I'm not into this anymore. I don't want to be a part of this anymore. This is why I left. Instead of trying to fix things from the inside. Now, if Nick Saban was positioning, if he was openly campaigning to say, put me into an advisory role, put me into a czar of college football role, which is, you know, it's a saying that we've thrown around a lot over the past couple of years. Wouldn't Nick Saban be a great czar of college football? Well, right now he's just an unemployed old man talking into the ether. And that's not meant to be disrespectful to Nick Saban. What I'm saying is he has no actual power to affect any change right now. Maybe a couple of other big-time coaches feel the same way he does, but until we have half of the coaches in college football all saying the same things in lockstep together, none of this changes.
Diesel, it's funny. Like, I actually think as a TV personality, he has more power to enact change than maybe he even did as a head coach. As a head coach, he may have been one of many. Now I think he's got a platform that is going to be front and center. And I think, you know, like the proof that he's telling you the truth, and it's not just sour grapes, is that no one had him pegged to leave. You know, Nick Saban retiring was a shock. And then we're being told, well, he's by far not the only one. You know, Josh Pate told us that Dabo Swinney is absolutely one of the other names who could decide enough is enough, and he's going to walk away. That's why the tease of this segment, ladies and gentlemen, was you won't believe who came to Dabo's defense without knowing it, and it's Nick Saban. And, you know, it's showing you that, okay, Dabo is kind of, even though he's not old in age, he's an elder statesman in college football. He's fighting for what he thinks is right in college football, right? And Dabo's not going to be a part of a program where players are saying to him, 70 to 80% of his team, I got one foot in the transfer portal, and how much am I going to, you're going to pay me? I don't see Dabo sticking around for that. Do you guys? If that's what college football exit interviews are every single year, do you see Dabo sticking around for that? I don't. So we cannot have a collective bargaining agreement fast enough where everyone gets their own pay. You have a 2 or a 3-year contract. You don't have free agency every single year. In effect, it's become impossible to become a head coach. Chip Kelly was talking about that this week. Like, why would you go from a head coach in the Big Ten, UCLA, to offensive coordinator in the Big Ten? Like, that is a massive step down. You know, all assistant coaches, Diesel, are bunched in the same lot. You know, you're all just assistants, and the head coach is the matriarch. Why would you do that? Like, well, that doesn't even make any sense. Well, he's doing it because he knows he's on the chopping block, and he knows half his team is threatening to leave. He can't recruit because the recruits want to know, hey, what is your job status? I don't know. Are they going to fire you? I don't know. Well, why am I going to commit to you then? Right?
Yeah, well, you know, a big issue is that no matter how bad the job is, somebody is always willing to take it. Somebody's always willing to take it. This very well may be part of why Sean Elliott left Georgia State, but that position was filled pretty quickly. Somebody will always take that role. And until you have a job that every coaching candidate in college football says, nope, not interested in that, I don't think this thing is going to have a whole lot of impact. If you have leaderless football teams, you know, think of an army without a general, and a general says, nope, I'm not going to war today because everybody in my army just wants to know how much are you going to pay me and when is the battle going to be over? We don't have that. People always want these jobs. So unfortunately, I think we're just going to speed up the revolving door of coaching positions because of it.
Coming up next on the show, we've got Brent Beard, Heisman Trophy voter. We'll ask him about these Saban comments and so much more, all on the most interactive sports talk show anywhere. It's Offsides. Mark Ryan and Diesel, and we are the Fan Upstate. What's good, my friends? This is the most interactive sports talk show anywhere. It's Offsides. Mark Ryan and Diesel, and we are the Fan Upstate, rolling on until 7 o'clock p.m. today. Thrilled to be here. Could not do it without you. Appreciate you more than I could ever put into words. We thank you guys so much for making us part of your day each and every day. Joined right now by our great friend, Brent Beard, Heisman Trophy voter. Heisman Trophy voter, my friends. And, of course, he joins us right now on the show. Brent, how are you, my friend? What's good?
Well, I'm doing well. Good to be on with you guys. So both daughters last weekend. So that was wonderful. They told their daddy all that he needed to do and all of his flaws, and they love me, and that's what daughters do. Okay.
You're the best, buddy. You're absolutely the best. So let me ask you this, Brent. I've long had this belief, okay, that now I am a bonus dad, and I'm a bonus dad of a son. And I've always thought, Brent, that if I had a 16-year-old son that wanted to go out on a date, I would pat him on the shoulder and say, go have a good time. Always respect women. Have fun.
Yes. Yes.
If my daughter was 30 years old and wanted to go out on a date, I would say, you're way too young to be dating.
Exactly.
You're way too young. You're only 30 years old. You got the rest of your life for this nonsense. What are you doing? How do you get over that, Brent, as a dad? Like, how do you get over that overprotective feeling, Papa Bear kind of deal?
You never really do. I mean, I still go through that from time to time. Now, my oldest is probably maybe 5'2", something like that, but she can handle herself, to say the least, too. And you really never do get over that. Now, this show is really so good for so many reasons, but one of the funny, I can laugh at it now, but my daughter calls me, Mark, it was about 3:02 in the morning. Dad, I just want you to know, I just fell off a motorcycle in one of the worst parts of Jacksonville, but I'm okay. My leather jacket helped me. And I remember asking her another time, well, why did you date that guy? And she said, oh, Dad, he just looked cool in that leather jacket and smoking a cigarette. And I said, so you were trying to date James Dean is what you were doing. Some people don't understand that, but people can Google it. But I told her on her wedding night at the reception, I said, her husband's name is Matt. I said, look, Matt, we welcome you into the family. And I want to tell you by far, you're the best guy she ever dated. She's never let me live that down. But I meant every word of it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Buddy, and to you guys listening right now, is it the same way with you if you have a daughter? Like, am I the only one who feels like you want your son to go out there and have a good time and no one is good enough for your daughter? Like, where are we with that? Brent, we mentioned you in the last hour, not just to tease that you would be coming on, but also discussing Saban's comments this week, kind of detailing how and why he retired. 70 to 80% of his roster wanted to know what their playing time was going to be like, or they're going to transfer, and how much money am I going to make? Then he was really put off that his team, was throwing helmets on the sidelines, not acting with class and decorum after they lost to Michigan in the playoff game. I remember we mentioned you, Brent, because about a year ago, and this is not to highlight, Brent Beard was wrong, but you were echoing what so many people were saying in that Nick Saban isn't anywhere close to retiring. So, that's what we were hearing a year ago from you. So, how did he just get so much distaste in his mouth to walk away 12 months later?
Well, the thing that I always said was, if he ever has a number 20 recruiting class instead of a number 2 recruiting class, that would give us a good indication as to where he was heading. But now, realistically, this NIL and the transfer portal kind of jumped on us over the last 2 or 3 years. And the other thing that happened with him is he wanted to hire some coaches that he really liked. And the guy said, Coach, we love to come work with you. Some of them come work with you again. But they said, we know you're not going to be there but another year or two, so we're not going to come. And that was an eye-opening experience for him to get turned down the way he did because of his age. Now, Mark Diesel, I give him credit. Now, look, he could have hung in there and went through what Bobby Bowden did, and the wins and the losses would have ended up being, instead of 10-2, maybe 8-4, 7-5. But I don't think he wanted to do that. And what he taught the time he was at Alabama was the go out, make value for yourself by playing well and being motivated to do that. And his way of motivating players, I'm not saying it was wrong, because it obviously wasn't when you win that many national championships, but it just wasn't ringing true with these players the way that it used to. So, after thinking about this, guys, I give him credit for realizing his limitations and the limitations of the moment, and frankly getting out when he did.
Brent, you know, there's a whole laundry list of quarterbacks who are finding new homes, playing in new uniforms this year. Do you see one or two that you expect to really have a breakout season? Or do you see one or two that maybe are making a mistake? They had a good thing going at their previous institution that they may not be able to carry forward at their new landing spot.
Cam Ward at Miami, they are saying from the media that we've heard from that he is the real deal and is the best quarterback that they've had there in quite some time. DJ Ungalale at FSU, guys, I just don't know. I'm just being frank with you about this. Look, DJU kind of reinvented himself when he went out west into the former Pac-12. Now he comes to Florida State. But the problem is, what we've heard from media friends is, I mean, he's got a good arm, but sometimes he only has one speed, and that's trying to throw it through a wall, and he needs to get some touch on the ball, and that he needs to be more accurate. So I know that's more the ACC, but keep your eye on that as to where that's going for both of them, and how they do this year will obviously have a lot to do with how those schools do.
Brent Beer joining us here on Offsides. Mark Ryan and Diesel. We are the fan upstate. Brent, what is a key burning spring question that you want to see answered from South Carolina this year?
I want to see how many playmakers they've got. I think that's been something that they really, I mean, they've usually always had a really good one. And then the rest of the guys were okay, but they need more game breakers. Now, I can tell you, if he's in shape and he's healthy, Rocket Sanders could be that guy. Rocket Sanders, 2 years ago at Arkansas, remember he was hurt last year. I mean, he had 1,500 yards. So, I mean, let me throw this at you like this. Mark, if they had a back that gained 1,500 yards and had 500 yards receiving, how much would that help them?
Oh, it would be incredible. Incredible. Brent, am really anxious to see Lenora Sellers. I know Gamecock fans think they're going to take a step back, but sometimes, even though he might not be the passer that Rattler was, he brings so many other facets to the offense. They didn't have much of a running game this year. No offensive line, no protection. Rattler running for his life. Maybe a guy who can tote the rock a little bit and can get away from some of that incoming pressure. That offensive line is like a levee that broke. Maybe that'll do.
Yes.
Maybe that'll do some good for the team this year.
Maybe, and just think back on that thought process of Sanders. I mean, if you've got that coming from another source, but being able to take off and run, does that open the window a little bit more for Sanders to be even more dangerous in some of these situations? So that could be a nice 1-2 punch, could it not?
Brent, there was a fascinating article from Heather Denich this morning from ESPN. She released an article saying that there has been significant public pushback on the SEC and Big Ten auto bid structure. She quoted TCU's Sonny Dykes saying that it would be like giving the Dallas Cowboys an auto buy every year just because they've got a big fan base. I mean, it's refreshing that the powers that be are listening to the backlash. Ultimately, do you think that will have an effect? Do you think it will shut this thing down? And I mean, there's been a lot of public backlash to a lot of things, a lot of the changes in college football over the past 5 years or so. This seems to be the one that's actually getting loud enough that it may affect change.
That's going to be really fascinating. I don't know if a year or two from now, if there still would not be enough backlash to prevent the SEC and the Big Ten from going out on their own. I still think that might be possible. Again, one of the things that Greg Sankey has said, the SEC commissioner, is we are trying to give the NCAA and Congress enough time to grab their arms around NIL and transfer portal and some of the issues they're dealing with on a daily basis. But if they're not, we're going to come up with their own plan. And look, that's a good thing if they're doing that. But I get the pushback. I mean, when the SEC and the Big Ten is talking about, well, and look, I get where they're coming from when they say we make the most money, we have the most eyeballs on TV, we have the better players, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, I get why they argue that, but on the other hand, I mean, it's not fair when they want 3, and I've even heard 4 guarantees for the 12. Look, if you gave them 4, my stores, they would only leave 4 left. So no, that I think that pushback is warranted at this point. But to your point, Diesel, whether it changes anyone's mind or how much it slows both those conferences down remains to be seen.
What SEC coach this year, Brent, has the most to prove?
Oh, I don't think there's any doubt. In my mind, it would be Billy Napier and the pressure that is on him. Now, Steve Spurrier did him no favors, did he, Mark, Diesel?
Sure.
With what Spurrier said. Look, we all have respect for Spurrier. He's in my, and always will be, Mount Rushmore for SEC coaches because he was a change agent. But, and I know he speaks his piece, but, and it's not going to matter when Florida lines up with Miami, but for the here and the now, it doesn't help Gator fans to hear from either their first or second most beloved figure that's criticizing the program. Look, a lot of people are wondering when things are going to get together there, but it's like former Auburn coach Sonny Smith. He used to have a saying that I don't think I would have told that. Well, I think this is one of those things where for Steve Spurrier, I don't think I would have told that.
Brent Beard, Heisman Trophy voter, First Coast News. Brent, I genuinely don't know the answer to this question, so I want to ask you. I know that Florida is reducing the number of seats in the Swamp this year. Are we seeing a continued decline in SEC attendance? Has that been an issue that they have tried to focus on and tackle this offseason?
Well, that's an interesting point. I don't know if they would necessarily call it a decline, but I think what they would say is in order to get in better seats, we have to take out some of the old aluminum seats that I'm guessing Mark sat on a few times.
No doubt, man.
Right. So if you're going to offer more, that's one of the things that you do. And if you're doing that, you're obviously going to lose some seating. And they're not going to cut 10,000 seats off necessarily or something like that, but they are going to get better seating. I get that. I understand that. That's what they want to offer to their fan base. But I think the reality of it is, Diesel, in a lot of these stadiums that are being refurbished and being redone, in order to get the Taj Mahal that these schools want, they are going to have to reduce seating by a certain amount. Yes.
Brent, what's your best guess as to what a collective bargaining agreement would feature or look like? Would there be 2-year contracts, 3-year contracts? Do all players get paid the same? Everyone wants to know when we're going to have this, because I think it's a major save for college football if we can just swallow and accept the fact that these guys are going to be employees now, that college football has now become NFL light. What do you see the CBA looking like?
I think what I hear is probably what you guys hear to a degree too, is that players eventually will have contracts because they will be employees. And what I was told this week from a consultant who works with a lot of different entities that what he has heard is there eventually will be a kind of a tier system. Your quarterbacks get paid this, your running backs get paid this, and so forth down the line. And that by doing that, players will at least be able to expect what they're going to get. And again, the thing that we hear a lot is players love to say to people that they get a whole lot of money, but the people who actually work with some of these collectives, what you're hearing from them now is that that's not true. That very few players get the big bucks, shall we say. They're sort of getting more than they used to, but what they're saying is some of these money amounts are being exaggerated. But that's kind of what we're hearing is, and we don't have to like it, but, and I think, Mark, what you're getting at is, would this be a way to put some logic, some control, some reason to this? Am I off base there?
Brent, can you go a little more detail on that? Would all running backs on the roster make the same amount? Would the starting running back make this and the second string running back make that? Because, I mean, then you're adding a depth chart element to this, that the coach is essentially actively deciding salaries by where he places guys on the depth chart. I mean, would there be a component as to what kind of rating they had coming out of high school? You're paid based on your star rating coming out of high school, anything like that?
That's a good question. I have not heard how much detail they've gotten with this yet. I bet there are some forward-thinking people who have kind of got a plan for that at this point too. So, but no, nothing real definitive as you look at that for what your starting quarterback would get, then your backup, and then your third team guy. But look, here's the reality. How do they adjust this when first team, second team guys go down, and by November, your third team guys is starting quarterback? How does that work, guys? That's going to be fascinating to see, isn't it?
Yeah, no one has any idea. Brent, I want to share an observation with you that I've had over the years, okay? I can get away with doing a Clemson or South Carolina basketball segment if they're good. They're both good this year. It might be the best they've ever been the same year. One is a 6 seed, one is a 5 seed projected bracketology.
Right.
Nationally, okay, I can't get away with doing anything on college basketball until March. It's a non-starter. So why is that? It's because college basketball has become a tournament sport.
Yes.
And when you make the tournament 68 teams, I think most people feel like, well, if my team isn't good enough to be one of 68, why would I really pay attention anyway? I worry, Brent, that college football, with the expansion of the playoff, if the perception is, well, now these guys are semi-professional athletes, that it's now a tournament sport. I worry that college football gets to the point where, the regular season is really muted and stripped of what made it unique and special. Do you have a number, Brent, in mind where if the playoff expands to this number, it becomes a tournament sport like March Madness?
Well, the thing you're hearing now and that we're reading is that in 2026, we may go to 14.
Right.
Now, again, that's only 2 teams, but in people's mind, there may be a chasm between 12 and 14. I think in the short term, the playoff is going to energize the sport in November, and that's going to help it. But I hear your point. I really do. I mean, is it going to be so NFL-like that are you going to get, and I'm just throwing out numbers here, okay? How watered down is it going to be if you've got I don't know if you've got a team that, are you going to have an 8-4 team in the playoffs? And how meaningful would that be to have a team with numbers like that. So look, as much as I want to play off and excited about it being here, I mean, I get the point. Is there a time of saturation, and is there a number? I mean, I don't necessarily think we need 24 or something like that we've got in some of the lower divisions in football. But it really does make you wonder how much more than 12 could we go, and it actually hurt the game. It's not going to hurt the money, and so forth. The games are still saving us, and the game is as popular as it really. Besides the off-season griping, you don't see that necessarily, and the interest that you've got in the game. But I understand the question.
Brent Beard, Heisman Trophy voter, First Coast News in Jacksonville. My friend, I've been intending to give you a call soon. We got to catch up, and I promise you I will do that. And we always do appreciate your time with us every single week, my friend. Have a great weekend, okay?
And glad that I could tell some dad stories too, okay?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Brent Beard, always the protective Papa Bear, joining us here on the show today. Lots to kick around on a Friday. You know, our buddy Josh Pate says there is no off season. And, you know, like I've realized that he's right. I kind of rolled my eyes at that the first time he said it. And I come to realize that he's right. There is so much going on with college football at all times. There really isn't an off season any longer. It's crazy. All right, guys, coming up next, you guys ready to have some fun? With your help, we will fix college football in 4 words. I'll explain. Where the most interactive sports talk show anywhere continues. It's Offsides. Mark Ryan and Diesel, the Fan Upstate.
You're a 90s rock guy, right?
Of course.
You know, today is the anniversary of the release of both Soundgarden's Super Unknown and 9 Inch Nails' Downward Spiral.
Today is the
30 years ago today.
How about that, man?
1994 was a monster year for rock.
All right. Let's see here. Texter says 71307 on the text line is where you guys can get to us on the show. Okay. Gamecocks by 90, so says Mongo. Texter says, that's my point exactly. There has to be some kind of roster portion of the equation that is holding South Carolina back. Something is weird. That much is certainly true. Guys, the problems plaguing college football are so well documented at this point, right? You know them. I know them. We're all aware of what they are. So I wanted to issue a challenge to you guys, okay, to tap into your ever creative brains. And here is the challenge. Here is the challenge should you choose to accept it. I would like to task you guys with fixing college football using only 4 words, okay? 4 words. You get 4 words. We're challenging you to make them count. Your job is to do the best job you can to fix the contracts, to fix the problems that plague college football to the best of your ability. You got 4 words to do it. What are your 4? Let us hear the best of what you got. 4 words. 71307 on the text line is where you can get to us. Just start your text with the word fan, and away you go on the show. Diesel, my 4, you're going to hate it. Bring back the BCS. I think this is a mess, what we've done. Look, only 2 big dogs got into the tournament when we had the BCS. The little guy didn't get in, but no one else got in anyway. But you know what? We did have bowl games that had meaning, bowl games that people watched. When we got the playoff, one thing I didn't realize is that every other commercial was going to be for the playoff and that nothing else was going to matter. And that a bunch of younger generation people were going to tell their peers that, hey, the postseason doesn't matter unless you're in the Final Four. Bring back the BCS. 4 words to fix college football. 4 words.
You know, to be honest with you, Mark, and I don't like admitting this on the air, you might be right.
Thank you, sir.
You might be right. It would take millions upon millions of dollars far more millions than it took to convince people that bowl games that weren't in the playoff didn't matter. It would take far more than that to convince people that they do matter. It's like the damage has been done. The damage has been significant. I mean, it really has. And look, we will never, nobody will ever walk into a board meeting after some sort of visible decline in the sport and say, you know what we should do? We should strip all this stuff away and take it back to where it used to be. They're just going to keep tweaking it and changing it and hope that they figure out some special kind of formula and fix everything from there. So you might be right in bringing back the bowl, bringing back the BCS. I think, yeah, I hate to say it, but yeah, you might be right.
Guys, that is my first submission to fixing college football in 4 words. You can fix college football in 4 years, 4 words. What do you got? What is your gut telling you right there? 71307 on the text line is where you can get to us. 4 words. You got 4. Guys, you don't have 2 words. You have 4 words, okay? 4 words to fix the tournament. We're getting some 2-word suggestions here on the show.
I'm going to say kill off some bowls.
I like it.
Kill off some of these bowls. Like, if you're not a conference champion, if you're not, well, conference champions go to the playoff now. If you're not, top 3 in your league, you shouldn't be going to a bowl game. I mean, maybe that needs to be the new standard. Top 3 in your league, which would be, the top 2 in your league. That's who needs to be going to these bowl games. If the SEC is so good that they're sending all of their top 3 to the playoff, then they don't get any more bowl games. You don't get any more. Like, we don't need the 7th best team in the SEC. We don't need the 8th best team in the SEC getting into bowl games. I want the elite of the elite playing in these bowl games.
I do as well.
The best of the rests, as they say.
Yeah, no, man, I'm with you completely. Number 2 for me, 3-year team commitment. You commit to a team, you're signed on for 3 years. Okay? No more free agency in college football. And before you tell me that's never going to happen, realize that you are not allowed to sue a collective bargaining agreement. You're not allowed to take a CBA to court. CBAs are exempt from that. Why? Because everyone who's a part of a CBA bought into it. You signed on the dotted line ahead of time. Okay? No one's viewing this as a violation of your rights. You bought in. Okay? You invested into the CBA. So we need the CBA. The problem with the CBA, guys, even then, like you have the disconnect. When Diesel and I were in college, when you were in college, the football players at your school felt like they were one of you. None of you had any money. All of you liked the places in Gainesville, Diesel, were Guthrie's Chicken Fingers, Leonardo's Pizza, and Burrito Brothers. Those were like the spots. Everyone is scrounging change to go get Burrito Brothers or Leonardo's or things like that. Where you went to school, what were the like the food joints that weren't necessarily, they were tasty, they weren't nutritious, but they were inexpensive and they gave you a lot of food.
There was Black Cat Burrito. The burritos were about as big as my forearm. They were huge and they were cheap. And I always loved that place because instead of like table numbers or anything like that, they gave you a little plastic toy, and it was something for you to do while your food was being made. So it might be like a little Fisher Price car, or it might be like a little tabletop game or something like that. And they would write down on the ticket, this burrito is going to, the dump truck. So you'd have a dump truck to play with while you were waiting on your food. It was great. There was a couple of bars, same way, right near campus that were the same way. One was called Spooners. The other one was called Parthenon. All the players or all the students spent way too much money there. Not because everything was expensive, but everything was cheap. So you were just there a lot.
Man, that is guys. What were those places for you at your place, at your college?
By the way, we need more restaurants doing that. Instead of giving me a table number, give me a toy to play with.
But back to the task at hand, right? I mean, it was something when the players were struggling like you were, and you're all bumping into each other. If they're professionals on campus, and guys, the biggest reason why I'm okay with the current college model that just gives them contracts, just gives them scholarships, is because that's what amateur athletics is. That's you go to college to learn how to be a pro. And then at the same time, all of us graduate college and then pursue our chosen profession. I never said to myself, you need to be paid during college, because you go to college to be paid, right? To learn how to do your chosen vocation. That is what you do. My third idea, 4 words to fix college football: salary cap, salary floor. Everybody in college football needs to have a salary cap floor or their own CBA. I think we're going to see a different CBA for the Group of 5 and the Power 5 or the Power 4. I think we could even see a different CBA between the Big Ten and the SEC and everybody else, the haves and the have-nots. But if you can't afford to meet the salary floor, you can't really afford college football. Teams like UAB that went away one time would just stay away. You got to meet the salary floor, okay? And if you are one of the big dogs in college football, you can go up to the salary cap. But you know what I think we'd see then, Diesel? If you had a salary floor and a salary cap, I think you'd see the Group of 5s have a better chance against the big dogs. They've got to spend a certain amount of money to be able to compete. A lot of folks want to see a salary cap and a salary floor in Major League Baseball. Okay, all of you got to be between $100 and $200 million salary cap. You can't be over that. You can't be under that. You can't make no effort. You can't just try to buy a championship. You got to be between these parameters, okay? I want to see that. I want to see something in place where, maybe some of the weakest, poorest teams are cold. Maybe they're gone. Okay, I want a salary cap, salary floor.
We've seen the FCS just be completely decimated over the past 15 years. It's been a mad dash for anybody and everybody with a pulse. The upper crust of the FCS, they've all left. So the division, while in its new terms is still competitive, you've still got quality teams in that division. There's far fewer of the quality teams. And if that were to happen, if there were to be a salary floor and teams just simply could not meet that salary floor, then maybe it's time to see some of these teams move back down to the FCS. And if the FCS, what made it unique is there is no NIL. There is no collective bargaining. You get scholarships at this level. That's all you get. You don't get money on top of anything at this level. I think it might appeal to some of the purists of the game to say, you know what, I'd rather go back and watch that brand of football where none of these guys are getting paid. But another 4 words for me is everybody
loves
No, I was making sure it was 4 words. Everybody makes the same. Everybody makes the same. And now that doesn't mean everybody on every team across the board makes the same. That means that every team in the conference makes the same amount. They pay the same amount. Their cap is the same. Now, if you want to make that individually, negotiated conference to conference, okay. But if you want to say all the Power 4 teams, you are operating under the same financial guidelines. And then the Group of 5s, you are all operating under these financial guidelines. These are your range. It can't be an arms race where the SEC says, well, we can make our salary cap whatever we want to, or Alabama gets to say that, or Michigan gets to say that, so that Michigan will still be outspending Purdue in football. I mean, there has to be some consistency across the board with what the salary ranges are, conference to conference or division by division. If you really do want to say these teams aren't really playing the same sport, they're 2 different divisions now, Power 5 and Group of 5. And hey, if you can't meet those numbers, sorry, you're out of this conference.
I don't mind that. Let's see what you guys are saying on the text line. The question to you is, fix college football in 4 words. What do you got? That, my friends, is next, and this is the most interactive sports talk show anywhere. It's Offsides, Mark, Ryan, and Diesel, and we are the Fan Upstate. What's good, my friends? This is the most interactive sports talk show anywhere. It's Offsides, Mark, Ryan, and Diesel. We are the Fan Upstate. Rolling on until 7 o'clock p.m. today. Great to have you guys with us. We've asked you, given all the problems plaguing college football today, to fix college football in 4 words or less. Texter says semi-pro, no NIL. Okay. Have no transfer contracts. Not bad. Salary cap for team. Very, very in line with ours. Very, very good. Texter says, Mason Blue says, it's great. Just stop. That's not the only one of those that we've gotten. We've, he goes, second one. It's great. Stop. Let's see here. Texter says, well, we're getting a lot of ones that are not 4 words. Okay. One texter says, embrace change and adapt. College football is more popular than ever and growing. Don't worry, Mark. We will get off your lawn. Sheezy McNeasy. Texter, look, guys, to say college football is great, what are you saying that based on? What metric? Are you saying that based on a positive college football playoff television rating? Do you know what a television rating is at one given time? It's a snapshot. It's a snapshot. Home looks good from the outside, doesn't reveal the cracks in the foundation. If you hit me with a rating and say this rating was good, you know what I would tell you? That's like a blood pressure. You got a good blood pressure reading this minute. You got a bad blood pressure reading the next. Okay? Like, guys, you got to understand that. You know, we tune into the college football playoff because the college football playoff has what's been hyped up and built up the entire year. We've now condensed the whole college football season down to only 8 hours that mean anything, 2 4-hour games. Guys, you can have massive cracks in the foundation and the sport can look okay to you from the outside. Somebody can look totally vibrant and healthy and have a heart attack the next day, have an aneurysm the next day.
Yeah, making money and getting ratings isn't necessarily by itself proof that the sport is doing well.
Let's see here. Texter says, Mark Spartanburg has Ike's Corner Grill. We went there a lot in college. It has been voted best burger in the upstate numerous times. I've been there. It's incredible. All of the hype is worthwhile. I can't get over how delicious they can make a hamburger taste. By the way, Texter, where'd you go to school? Texter says, Mark, this is Keel from Pennsylvania. My college dining highlight, 4 words, hefty lefties. Google images. I don't understand.
We got Daquan Romaine on YouTube.
What's up, Daquan?
Misunderstood the assignment. There's a lot more than 4 words in this. Says, do the college football playoffs like March Madness so we can see if an underdog team can knock off a big team. Well, that's what we're doing. Then have a Final Four.
Okay. Texter says, eliminate NIL and portal. Boom, 4 words, I did it. Succinct, and accurate. Texter says, as an NFL fan first, I love where college football is headed because it reminds me of Pro Bowl. Oh, God. It reminds you of Pro Bowl. So this is the same dude who said embrace change and adapt. So, guy, we don't want college ball to be Pro Bowl. Nobody wants that. You know, the fact that it reminds you of Pro Bowl is exactly why so many are falling out of love with it. We posted a poll. Do you love college football as much as you used to? 75% said no. Now, if you are down with a business model that alienates 75% of your customer base, good luck with that business model. Good luck. 75% of folks in a college football first market known as the upstate of South Carolina is down on it. Big time. Big time. Let's see here. Texter says, better regions, resurrect Southwest Conference. Texter says, make Nick Saban czar. Interesting. Creative texter.
Reintroduce regionality now. It's only 3 words. Dang it. Just reintroduce.
Texter says, I think the main issue is transfers, no playing, no money. The year of or after you transfer. No playing, no money. Texter says 4 words, spread the wealth around. Too many elitists make money off of athletics and academics.
Reduce scholarships to 75.
There you go. You've been on that train for 5 years.
I have been on that train for a long time, and I get called stupid every time I say it.
Well, it would level the playing field quite a bit.
Level the playing field. It would spread the talent around.
You can't do that, Diesel, and then have the transfer portal. We got to amend the transfer portal a little bit, man. And people always say, well, guys, you can change jobs. You can do this. You can do that. All of us have contracts, number 1. Number 2, all of us are professionals. Number 3, we all have resumes by which if you leave a job every year, guess what happens? Nobody hires you. Oh, this is a grass is green type. Nobody hires you.
We can't just change jobs. You and I in this market have non-compete clauses.
Right.
So, there are several radio ownership groups in this city. And if we want to stay here, if we want to live here, then we have to agree to a non-compete.
Right.
Which for most of us is either 6 months or a year. That's being off the air for 6 months or a year just so that you can change jobs. Sounds an awful lot like what they used to have to do, right? If you wanted to transfer from Power 5 to Power 5, you had to sit out a year. If you want to transfer from Power 5 to FCS, you could play immediately.
It's their own non-compete. Yeah. Why do we get rid of it? What's wrong with it? I mean,
but now you can transfer in conference with no penalty.
I've never had any problem with our non-compete. Do you guys understand like concept of that? Like in media, you sign a non-compete and it says, if we're going to be paying you, okay, you are not allowed to leave this station and compete in this market with one of our competitors. Otherwise, we're not going to hire you if there's a risk that you could leave and go work for one of our competitors in our market and hurt us, okay? And we have a non-compete against you for 6 months to a year. Diesel, I don't know about you, man. I've never had a problem with that. Now, if you said you can't go anywhere and compete, I do have a problem with that. But the non-compete that we have in media always made sense to me.
Yeah, it makes sense. And at the same time, I think it probably is more useful for, sales staff, people who have inside business knowledge of how one cluster does business compared to another one. And so if you make people wait 6 months to a year, it's possible that the strategies have changed or that your memory of exactly how they did things have fogged, have sullied a little bit. That's more of the reason to me is more of a business thing than on-air competition.
We've got the top 5 at 5 coming your way next, right here on the most interactive sports talk show anywhere. It's Offsides, Mark Ryan and Diesel, and we are the Fan Upstate. What's good, my friends? This is the most interactive sports talk show anywhere. It's Offsides, Mark Ryan and Diesel, and we are the Fan Upstate, rolling on until 7 o'clock p.m. today. Thrilled to have you guys with us. Great to be here, man. Always a good time with you. We are jam-packed in this hour. We have got for you coming up today in this hour, we are going to look at, everyone's focused on the negative these days. We're going to look at some of the positive traits of area head coaches. We've got either or in this hour as well. Lot of participation on the text line today. Always great to see. But now it is time for us to do that jam. We call this jam the Top 5 at 5. The Top 5 at 5 is the top 5 biggest sports stories that we're talking about, the top 5 biggest sports stories that are out there, and the top 5 topics of the day with you, ladies and gentlemen of the Upstates Offsiders. The Top 5 at 5 starts right now.
And now, the Top 5 at 5.
And 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hit it.
5.
At number 5 today, my friends, could we possibly be looking at the best college basketball season ever in existence in the Palmetto State? You know this if you listen to the show. The last time both Clemson and South Carolina made the tournament was 26 years ago, the 1997-1998 season. Both teams are now locks to be in. They can't lose their berth. They could lose their final 2 games. Clemson at Wake Forest this weekend, South Carolina at Mississippi State, both playing bubble teams, fighting for their lives, fighting for survival. And they could lose the first game in their conference tournaments, ACC tournament, SEC tournament, both would still be in the tournament. First time both making it in 26 years. Again, 1997, 1998. But if you want to ask what is the best season in Palmetto State history, I have to go back to 1996, 1997. In that year, Clemson made the Sweet 16. South Carolina won the SEC. And they went to the tournament, but they lost their first game. That would have been an upset. They did, however, win the conference, which is a hell of an accomplishment. Do you think this season has the potential to surpass 1996, 1997 as the best ever gold medal award winner for the state? Do you think this season these teams have it in them to do that? I asked Diesel if 2 Sweet 16 berths would beat 1 Sweet 16 berth in South Carolina winning the SEC in 1996 and 1997. And Diesel, you said?
I said yes. By far it would.
2 Sweet 16s, are they possible? Well, you look at the second round matchups proposed in the most recent bracketology by Joe Lunardi. Clemson would be playing Kentucky in the second round, which sounds intimidating, but only so by name. Kentucky has double-digit losses this year. Both Florida and South Carolina have beaten Kentucky, and Clemson has beaten South Carolina. South Carolina's route, their road, not so kind. They would get Kansas in the second round as a 3 seed. Ay caramba. What do you guys say? What are the criteria for this being the best season ever in the Palmetto State? It starts at Sweet 16 and above, right?
Clemson had 2 NBA players on that 96-97 roster, Greg Buckner and Harold Jameson. Are there 2 NBA players on this Clemson roster?
There's not one. There isn't one.
You don't think PJ Hall makes the NBA?
No, I don't.
Wow.
I don't think PJ Hall is an NBA player.
Okay.
I don't. But I think he's a really good college player, and I'm not trying to hate on him at all. Diesel, is PJ Hall a great 3-point shooter? No. Is he a great ball handler? No. He's a post player, but he's not a big post player. So it's
kind of a tweener type player.
Yeah, in a specialist league, what is he? He's got the size of an NBA small forward, but he doesn't have that game. He's got the game of a front court player, but he doesn't have the size. So I'm concerned a little bit for PJ. It's not that he can't be that. It's that I need to see him expand his game to be more of a small forward, more of a wing at his size to succeed at the NBA level. I don't see a current NBA player on this Clemson basketball team. Do you guys? What's your criteria? What are the odds that this is the best South Carolina State basketball season of all time? Next up,
4.
at number 4. Folks, this is nuts to me. Jake Paul is going to be fighting Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson is 57 years old. The videos watching Mike Tyson training for this fight look like Jake Paul's going to get his ever-loving ass kicked. And Diesel, I have a confession to make. I have rolled my eyes at every single one of these bouts.
Yeah.
Every single bloody one. All right. You know the last one of these gimmicky matches I watched? And I was such a loser. This girl had it at her house, and we were FaceTiming, and I was watching it on her FaceTime. You know, like she was FaceTiming me, and I was such a cheapskate. I'm watching it through a FaceTime call with her. And that was Diesel, Conor McGregor versus Floyd Mayweather. Like, that to me was interesting. And I thought Conor did a hell of a job in that fight. Diesel, this one might get me. I'm serious. Because I want to see this Jake Paul guy. I want to see him see some stars.
You want to see real life Mike Tyson's punch out. That's what you want to see, right? Look, we live in a society where now everything has to be ramped up in intensity and absurdity every time. Otherwise, people won't tune in to watch it, right? I mean, we've seen it with countless things. We see it with music. Bands have to get heavier and heavier and heavier and heavier, or nobody pays attention to you. Things have to get wilder and crazier, or people don't pay attention to you. You have seasons of television shows that you loved in seasons 1, 2, and 3. And by seasons 7, 8, 9, they don't even resemble the show that they started out as. And that's where we are. I mean, we've entered a level of absurdity with what we require to even watch boxing. Like, boxing itself is doing a horrible job promoting boxing because they can't make any fight other than these gimmicky fights worth watching.
100%.
You know, like, are we going to have somebody literally go out and box a kangaroo? Are we going to have somebody get into a ring and fight a bear because that's what we have to see to want to tune in?
Watch somebody box a bear. I watched somebody box a kangaroo one time when the kangaroo had his dog in a headlock. That was fun. Guys, Jake Paul, Mike Tyson, would you watch? You know, like, it's hard to say that you want to tune in to see somebody get their ass kicked, but I'm tired of this Jake Paul guy trying to dupe us into bogus matchups. He's not even a real fighter. All he can do are gimmicky bouts, but enough of you keep buying them, and I don't know why. Mike Tyson, you have the power to put an end to this one-hit wonder. Okay, you have the power to put an end to it. No more. Mike Tyson by KO. Next up.
3.
At number 3 on the show today. Guys, this is awesome. I have had former LSU coach Dale Brown, who was Shaquille O'Neal's head coach in college, on my shows before. And he's a great interview. And you know what he did? He went back and charted, okay? He charted every single Pistol Pete Maravich game, okay? And what he wanted to see was there was no three-point line. So how many of these games, how many of these points would have been three-point shots, right? How many of them would have been three-point shots? This is going to blow you away. Caitlin Clark right now has 3,685 career points. Dale Brown found that with a three-point line, Pete Maravich would have scored 4,731. He would have been 1,046 points more than Caitlin Clark. And instead of 44 points a game, he would have averaged 57 points a game.
But he didn't.
Right.
But he didn't. I love, look, I'm not going to call this guy a misogynist. I think it's entertaining and really fascinating content. But like, are we actively trying not to recognize what anyone does anymore because it doesn't fit our nostalgic view that sports back in my day were better? I mean, that's where we are, right? You know, everybody gets to create whatever reality that they want. and say, well, I went back and I looked at this and it's this, so you can't convince me otherwise. Dude, you're living in La La Land.
Well, Diesel, I don't even know if Dale Brown is trying to argue that he should still have the record.
No.
I think maybe he's just trying to highlight how awesome he is. The other awesome thing about Pistol Pete Maravich, Diesel, is that a guy that looks like this, okay, is the best college basketball player ever. Like that guy, you see that on the YouTube page, guys? That guy is the best college basketball player ever. He would have averaged 57 points a game if they had a three-point line. I mean, that shows you how far out he was shooting and making them. You know, what style was the most like Pistol Pete of the players you see today? Steph Curry? Is that the one? Anybody else? Next up.
2.
At number 2 on the show today. Guys, you won't believe who jumped to Dabo's defense without even knowing it. It was one Nick Saban. For Nick Saban has now highlighted more reasons why he stepped away from the sports. Number 1, he said, I want to be clear that wasn't the reason, but some of those events certainly contributed. I was really disappointed in the way that the players acted after the game against Michigan. You got to win with class. You got to lose with class. We had our opportunities to win the game, and we didn't do it. And then showing your ass and being frustrated and throwing helmets and doing that stuff, that's not who we are. That's not what we do, what we promoted in our program. I thought we could have a hell of a team next year. And then maybe 70 or 80% of the players you talk to, all they want to know is 2 things. What assurances do I have that I'm going to play? Because they're thinking about transferring. And how much are you going to pay me? Saban recounted. Our program here was always built on how much value we can we create for your future and your personal development, academic success in graduating and developing an NFL career on the field. So I'm saying to myself, maybe this doesn't work anymore. That the goals and aspirations are just different. And that's all it's about. That it's all about how much money can I make as a college player. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm not saying that's bad. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying that's never been what we were all about, and it's not why we had success through the years. He sounds like Dabo Swinney, does he not? How do you think Dabo would respond to, I want assurances that I'm going to play next year or I might transfer? I think Dabo would say, don't let the door hit you or the good Lord split you. What would Dabo say if they said, how much money can you make? I think Dabo would say, I don't know. You got 2 years of eligibility left, then you'll find out, right? I think that's what Dabo would say. And it's costing Dabo a lot of players. And it's costing Dabo, top 5 finishes in college football. I admire the hell out of the principal. I admire that he's fighting for what's right. But now the nature of the game is forcing the greats of the game to walk away. And that is a very, very, very sad environment. All of which leads us to this.
1.
At number 1. If I could task you with fixing college football in 4 words, what would your 4 words be? I have given you bring back the BCS. I have given you salary cap, salary floor. Meaning you got to pay at least this much to your team to be able to play in today's college football. And, salary cap is self-explanatory, okay? The Power 4 schools have a salary cap. The Group of 5 schools, you got to meet this minimum requirement that you're paying your team in order to play. We get this sort of collective bargaining agreement. We wave goodbye to the transfer portal. Waving goodbye to the transfer portal would be great for the sports. Finally, for me, 3-year team commitment. A commitment is binding for a period of 3 years under a collective bargaining agreement, and that cannot be sued. Diesel, your fixed college football in 4 words was?
Pay everyone the same, whether that's on a conference level, whether that's on a division by division level, pay everyone the same. Otherwise, we're going to have this same arms race we've always had. If Alabama can decide our salary cap is $3 million, But Vanderbilt says, well, we can't pay $3 million. We gotta have $1.5 million payroll. Well, then players are going to keep choosing it. Not that they're not already anyway, but you know what I'm saying, though. You know, you can't have a kid choosing Alabama over Florida because Alabama has a, $250,000 higher salary cap.
What do you guys say? What is your fix to college football in 4 words or less? And those are today's top 5 at 5. Now it's your chance to chime in, which you can do on the Renewal by Anderson fan phone at 844-FAN phone. That's 844-326-3663. The text line is there for you at 71307. Just start your text with the word fan and away you go. You can hit us on Facebook, on Twitter, and on YouTube at The Fan Upstate on every one. Please like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and subscribe to us on YouTube. And finally, email. You guys can all email the show. Mark Ryan, that is MARC Ryan at thefanupstate.com. All the different ways you can get in touch with us here on the most interactive sports radio show anywhere. All right. I want to share this with you that came in from a listener. Want to share this with you. This is from Lance Johnson, LJ. He says, "Hi, Mark. Longtime listener, first-time emailer. LOL, I'm a huge Clemson fan and a huge fan of your show. Love you and Diesel's chemistry. You guys are what the Upstate has needed for a while. I listen to you on my drive home from 5 to about 5:45-ish religiously over the other sports talk shows. I think you may know who I'm referring to. An Offsides take, piggybacking on the NASCAR topic earlier and a few other segments about what constitutes a sport. I know Diesel was adamant about a score of some sort and an objective outcome. I honestly don't remember your stance, unfortunately. Diesel was the score. I was the objective outcome. I've been watching a ton of arm wrestling videos lately. That sounds weird when I type it out, but I would like you to look up Devon Larratt. He's the MJ of arm wrestling. And it's refreshing to see such a wholesome competitor in their sport who can actually deliver. Any ideas of that personality we have in sports today? I think of Bird a lot, even though that's not current, and maybe Deshaun in his Clemson prime, but subtle cockiness with the ability to back it up is rare unless you can think of more. Maybe Favre, Montana. He writes TEPB, but I don't know what that stands for, Diesel. TEPB. Thanks, bud. As always, looking forward to the next top 5 at 5. Keep it up, man. Lance Johnson. Lance, appreciate the email so much. I think Steph Curry does that today. Steph Curry is the guy who's wholesome, who's a little bit cocky, who always backs up like his bravado with performance. That's that guy to me. Maybe to some degree, Patrick Mahomes, but like there's a wholesome quality to Steph Curry that I think is really great. Really, really great. What do you guys say? LJ, thanks as always for the email, my brother. All right, my friends, coming up next, we're filled with nothing but negative news all the time. Nothing but negative news. So we thought we'd hit you with some positives about your area coaches. And we thought we'd do it next, right here on the most interactive sports talk show anywhere. It's Offsides, Mark Ryan and Diesel, and we are the Fan Upstate.